Howdy. In the last episode, we implemented a request to /signup using a sales blueprint action. The default blueprint create action is fine, but I really don't want to save passwords in clear text, and I also want to generate a gravatar for each user. Let's overwrite the blueprint create action with our own signup action. This will also let me introduce a new concept to the sales community, node machines. So let's head back to the editor and open up the usercontroller.js file. I'm going to create an empty signup action. Now let's navigate your browser to nodemachine.org, which is kind of the mothership of node machine information. The first thing to understand is that machines are built on the existing and very powerful node module framework. Second, the node machine specification and the machines located at nodemachine.org are completely open source and MIT licensed. Third, machines are packaged up in something called a machine pack that can be required just like any other node module from NPM. So I'll show you how to create node modules in future screencasts. For now, we're going to just be consumers of a couple of them. I know I want to encrypt passwords, so let's browse the existing machine packs. So here's one called passwords, and there's a machine called encrypt password that looks kind of interesting. With machines, you'll know exactly what inputs you can use and exactly what you'll get out from the exits. I'm just going to copy the example usage here and paste it into my signup action. I'm also going to move our response into the success exit. Finally, I'll grab the password as an input to the machine from a request parameter. And if there's an error, I'll let sales handle it with res.negotiate and then respond with the error. I'm going to also change the default result argument to a more meaningful name like encrypted password. So in addition to encrypting the password, I want to create a gravatar URL from the email address that we get from our user. Let's go back to the nodemachine.org site and browse to the gravatar machine pack. The getImage URL machine returns a URL of a gravatar based upon an inputted email address. This machine actually has two ways we can set it up. The example usage is using exec sync, which allows me to use the machine synchronously. I want to use the machine asynchronously, so I'll use exec. Therefore, I'll also provide both success and error handlers. So we've encrypted the password and generated a gravatar URL for each user record. Next, we'll save these attributes along with the other fields in our signup form using the create method of our user model. I've also added an attribute last logged in and assigned it the value of the date method. If we get an error, I'll let sales handle it with res.negotiate and respond with that error. Otherwise, I'll return a response with the ID of the new user record as JSON. Now we need to install the two machines we're using. Open up the terminal window and type npm install machine pack passwords-save. Next, we'll install the gravatar machine pack by typing npm install machine pack gravatar-save. Okay, let's make sure all of this works. We'll restart sales using sales lift. Again, we're going to get this message about migration. Our choices are safe, drop, and alter mode. If I set migrations to safe, sales doesn't do anything other than create a connection to the database and run queries. This is the default environment for production and should be used whenever you're working with data you don't want to risk losing. In drop mode, instead of trying to migrate the data in the database, this mode drops the database and creates brand new tables, essentially giving you a fresh start. If you have a bootstrap file that resets your data on every sales lift, then the drop migration is a good way to get going when your models are constantly changing in the beginning of a project. Alter is the next step up from drop. The difference is that before it drops the database, it tries to store all records in memory, and when the table has been recreated, it attempts to reinsert them into the new data structure. It's useful if you have a very small data set and are making trivial changes to the data schema. We'll ultimately be using safe mode, but for now we'll use alter. Now you can set this mode by going into the config/models.js file and uncommenting this line. So let's lift sales using sales lift and navigate your browser to localhost 1337/signup. I'm going to add another one of my heroes, Neil Armstrong, to our user model. And as you can see, we have a new record with an encrypted password, a Gravatar URL, and our last login attribute. So far, we've been using our user model without any attributes, and that's fine, especially for NoSQL databases. In this current project, we're using Sales local disk database that has characteristics of a NoSQL database. We'll be swapping it out for Mongo in an upcoming episode, but at this point, I want to prevent duplicate users, and I also want to prevent the storage of fields other than those I define in my model. Now, this is just a double check because we are specifying the fields we want to create in our controller action. So we're currently in the user model via the /models/user.js file. I'm going to add some attributes here. So we're already doing a bunch of validation client side, but since those are not necessarily secure, we'll reinforce the validation on the back end. I'll use the required attributes on some of the fields and the unique attribute on the email field. This will prevent duplicate email addresses from being saved. So let's go back to our signup action in the user controller. First, I want to parse the error I get back from sales regarding the duplicate email address. Let's log that error and take a look at what we get back. So in Postman with sales lifted, I'll create the Nikola Tesla record. Now when I try to add Tesla again, I get the unique error. So let's go back into the action and handle that error. Now, this also lets me introduce you to custom responses. So if an error exists and it has to do with the email attribute and the rule that's being violated is the unique attribute, then I want to respond with this email address in use function. I'm going to place that function as a custom response in the responses folder. Let's go ahead and take a look at that response. So first, I'll get access to the response and then return a more easily parsable object back to the client. So let's relift sales and in Postman try to add Mr. Tesla again. And now we get our nicely parsed error. So let's provide for a better user experience to this error on the front end. First, we'll go into the signup module and inject the toaster service we started in the last episode. This will provide us with some great looking messages. Next, we'll do something similar in the signup controller, injecting the toaster service into our controller. So now we need to handle the duplicate error response from sales, passing an error message to the user. In the last episode, we already set this up in the markup of our signup page. So start sales and navigate your browser to localhost 1337/signup. I'll attempt to create Nikola Tesla one more time. And there's our duplicate error message. However, the loading state hasn't changed, as evidenced by the animated create account button. Okay, the reason for this is something most refer to as old age. But the good news is it's an easy fix. So head back to signup controller and change signup form location false to signup form loading false, which is what actually was intended, but for you know what. Anyway, just to show you it's fixed, I'll add Nikola again for the last time. And here we get both the message and the button with the correct loading state. Okay, we made it. Appreciate you sticking with me. In the next episode, we'll add our login state through a request to /login. We'll add a profile page and make a database switch to MongoDB. And as always, thanks for watching, and go check out and sign up for the beta of the sales team's latest creation, Treeline.io.